Professional protesters and the policies they propagate, how to stop spying on yourself, Ted Cruz's latest assignment, and more. The Monica Perez Show starts now. Hey, everybody, if you are a fan of the show, you want to watch it live and comment, I will read the comments at the bottom of the hour. You can go to any of your favorite video streaming platforms. You can go to YouTube, 2 o'clock Pacific, 5 o'clock Eastern, Tuesdays and Thursdays. And shortly thereafter, it's up on your favorite podcasting platform. So live streams at 2 and the podcast comes up right after that. So I've been at Jazz Fest, as you can tell by if you're watching my extra swarthy appearance. I got a lot of sun down there, helps mask all the all the great food I ate. And today's going to be a little bit of a seat of the pants kind of show because I had to pick up my son who is sick from school and he's like totally ill in the background. So if I have to step out, please forgive me. But I thought it'd be better to have a show, even if it's a little seat of the pants. So I'm going to tell you what I came up with. I'm not sure it's going to all come out in the right order, but you can help me. You can help me in the comment section. Okay, so the thing that just keeps popping up, and I hate to talk about the same thing more than once. I hate to talk about the thing that's being jammed down your throat, but these protesters are getting out of hand, at the college campuses. But if you see the pattern emerging, you can see that it's going in stages, obviously orchestrated. And I'll actually tell you, there's a proof of it's being orchestrated. So they're on the level where, okay, at first it was a few protests on the Ivy League campuses. Then it spread everywhere. Then people were camping using the same tents, by the way. Then they were going inside the buildings. Well, now, since the last time we spoke, this stage of the operation is that cops and other government authority are coming in and busting up these, like, what's literally have become in some places encampments, like at UCLA. I think it was, maybe it's USC, but I can't help but think it would have been UCLA because that is the state school. They had like literally plywood and pallets and, really fresh wood too, by the way. Somebody's buying it and giving it to them. And then the cops are coming in and busting it up. And of course, it wouldn't have gotten that out of hand if the schools could have controlled it. So what's going on? Like, there's always something going on. This is not organic. It's not spontaneous. Take it from somebody who was totally objecting to COVID lockdowns and Obamacare and everything. Like, this stuff, people push these things, these protests, and the ones that get loft, that take off, are the ones that have backing. So this has backing. And actually, I talked about this last week. Fox News was reporting that George Soros and other big foundations like that were behind it. So since then, I've gotten this. My friend Krista sent me this article from the New York Post about how the BLM organizers are suing Soros's organizers, the Tides Foundation, because I guess I didn't realize this is a little bit of a scam. This is it'll be in the sources on my show notes on my MonicaPerezShow.com. So I guess the Tides Foundation is a tax exempt organization. So if you give money to them, that you can deduct it from your taxes. But they're allowed to give money to non-tax exempt foundations, and they do it for a fee. So if I understand this article correctly, I mean, it was pretty clear. You can read it yourself and investigate further if you like. The Black Lives Matter particular one, this was like the Patrisse Cullors one, the one that was pretty famous, although not the original one. There was a lawsuit about that too. They raised money, but it wasn't tax exempt. So what they did was they funneled their money through the Tides Foundation, and they were supposed to get it back. I thought it said like $30 million. And the Tides Foundation didn't use it either. The protest stopped or whatever. And the BLM people want their money back, but they don't get to do. That's not how it works. Like then it's really starts getting like illegal because, you have to, like, if I recall correctly, when you have like a trust or something, you have to not have control over it. Or, and you can remember, like with Trump, he's saying, I don't have control over it, so I don't need to divest. I don't like that's, then we'll talk about that another time. Anyway, in order for you to really be a recipient of something like that and not being considered the controlling entity, you have to not have control over it. So they really have probably no recourse, or that's what the Tides Foundation thinks. But now they're suing the Tides Foundation to get that money back, and the Tides Foundation is one of the ones that's paying for some of these protests. So what would they be paying for? I mean, I don't know for sure. I haven't seen, like, I don't think that I have to release that information, but you can see brand new pieces of plywood, brand new pallets, which have gotten a little expensive since COVID. And, the pallets that I use in my basement, I like, are like junk. I just, when I see a pallet, I'll grab a pallet because they have value. So this is being financed. So all the tents were the same, those green tents in the beginning at Columbia. So that's what they're doing. And now we're seeing that a lot of these protesters, which I had kind of suspected from the beginning, although it wasn't strictly necessary to get this thing going with non-students, but there are plenty of people there who are not students. So now it's really looking like Occupy. It's really looking like Occupy Wall Street, which was a Soros thing. Might have been my very first blog post ever. Like, oh, is George Soros behind Occupy? Because it was like 10 years ago. And I was still, I didn't even know 9/11 was an inside job. Like I was like, oh, I think something's wrong. So anyway, that's what it seems like to me. And okay, so you're seeing the policy changing. And I was watching some of the videos on CNN. So it has all of them. It has like USC, Columbia, UCLA. There's lots and lots of, like, so many. Everybody's in on it. Everybody's doing it. Of course, the timing couldn't be more perfect because it'll screw up graduation. It'll ruin people's lives, which they love, love, love to do. And then it'll be like a natural go away because it's the summer. I presume it will fade away as school's out. So, they don't have to like have a resolution so much. But one thing that I absolutely hate to have to endure absorbing news from mainstream media, but I do it. I do it for you. I do it. And one of the things that you get out of that is you can see very clearly what the agenda is, especially if you look at like more than one news source. You do one from the right, one from the left, Fox and CNN. Everything they agree on is like the official narrative. And then the stuff that they disagree on is what we're allowed to have in our baskets. So CNN, but sometimes they'll like tell you what the agenda is because people are too stupid to put pieces together on their own. I'm not saying everybody, but like the people who they need to, people need it spelled out if it's this level of propaganda. Like I'll say like the Atlantic is a little bit more subtle, but you know what I mean? CNN is not. So the commentator said, like the reporter said, oh, this is it in a nutshell. This is a perfect example of what's happening. These protests were peaceful until the cops came and tried to break it up. And then they got verbal and they got violent. But it's not peaceful to set up lean-tos made of wood. Like, like they're probably more permanent than things I've seen in third world countries. Like they're made of wood. They are camping out on property that is not owned by the people who are camping out there. So I don't like public property at all. So I'm not even going to mention about the state schools, but the private schools, that's private property, and they have every right, and I would say obligation, to control that stuff. Like if any other time, if you had gone and put a fucking tent down in Harvard Yard or whatever, they would definitely get you out of there. I mean, so obviously made a decision. That's part of the story anyway. They're making these decisions. But yeah, you need to, but even homeless policy that they let these guys camp out on the public streets it's an abomination. It really would have made our founders like roll over in their graves because this stuff was not contemplated in the Constitution. It says stuff in those early laws about vagrancy being a crime. Like it's just, if you're going to have government, that is part of what government does. So people who are not like total anarcho-capitalists, they need to understand this is the bottom line of what the purpose of government should be on both sides of the aisle. Setting up lean-tos on private property is aggression. It's trespassing. It is violence against the property. It is not. These were not peaceful protests. Well, of course, it's a peaceful. It's only. I was going to be very, very, really, a really joke in poor taste, which I will not go to. But if you don't object to somebody violating you or your property, yeah, they don't have to use violence if you just submit. Is that the message? So anyway, uh, and the funny thing is, I saw Spike Lee on Turner Classic Movies the other day feeding us a terrible, terrible movie. And it was just a terrible movie with Kirk Douglas about a guy trapped in a mine. And he says, and he's like, and I'm watching this movie. I'm like, why did he recommend this? It sucks. Obviously, there's a reason. He's like, it was telling America about a truth they were not ready to hear. He's such a big shot. But his movie, Do the Right Thing, which ended with doing the wrong thing. I remember thinking, like, are they trying to change the morality in this country? Because that was a long time ago. It was like 40 years ago. And in fact, I would say yes. And this is the morality where private property and that kind of is just not sacrosanct, and even public property is they're enforcing the tragedy of the commons. Anyway, so this is all like there are many roles to play for these psyops, and what the initial thing for this was that anybody who objected to what was happening, what Israel was doing to the Gaza Strip, is a Marxist, woke, disruptive, lawless, anti-colonial, which I think we should all be anti-colonial, and anti-imperialist, but you have to be a, whatever in the parlance of the, time, or I guess it's going out of style now, but a libtard. You have to be a libtard. So, which I hate that expression. But that was what this is for. But another purpose. So I would consider those protesters taint agents. They're tainting this political viewpoint by being morons who do not share, or shills who do not share your values. And by the way, these are that side of the aisle is very big into democracy. They really care supposedly about democracy, whereas I prefer objective rights. I don't think a crowd should be able to vote my rights away. But again, if there are any way to protect democratic institutions, it would be against having a giant clearinghouse of money designed for political manipulation and totally anonymous, paying people to act like they are individual demos, the people, to deceptively represent the the mood of the people. It's really undemocratic, and I consider it to be fraudulent and reprehensible. But these are the people who the rank and file think that they're morally superior. So, but I feel like a bigger thing here is the attack on colleges generally, and private schooling of any kind generally. Yes, UCLA is experiencing this, but for the most part, these are all private schools, which was the same target for COVID. Locking down COVID, Harvard is not going to go out of business, but a lot of other colleges did. And prior to that, and I've talked about this before, that Operation Varsity Blues, they were targeting people who were giving money